the life of Steve Curry. While today we celebrate Steve's life, we also mourn the passing of a father, brother, and good friend. These emotions, the memory and happiness of joyous times with Steve, and the sadness of a life lost are not mutually exclusive. This is the ambiguity of our human existence, and it is the range of human emotions that makes our limited time here on earth fulfilling. This is God's design, and I have found that trusting in Him and accepting His plans for each of us brings a certain tranquility on a day like today. I know Steve trusted God's design for him, and today he rests complacently in the house God has prepared for him. There are a few statements I make with certainty. This is one. I could regale you with many stories about Steve, athletic victories and defeats, enjoyable times together, and difficult days in our past. We all have stories of our times with Steve, and I suspect later today many of them will be told. Most with hearty laughter, some with tearful anguish and pain. Today I choose to recount what lessons in life Steve taught me through a lifetime of observing his actions. Sadly, I've been preparing for this day for 20 years, and with that time, I've stumbled upon words, thoughts, and situations that bring Steve's life into a set of vivid memories collected and collated forever in my mind. In the summer of 1975, when many of us were packing up for freshman year of college, our most prized possessions were our albums. I would suspect most of us owned the Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young album, Four-Way Street. In the intro to 49 Bye-Byes, Neil Young introduces Steve Stills this way. Right now, I'd like to bring up a friend of mine. He's been a good friend of mine probably longer than anybody I know that I think about it. He's been a good friend over the years. We've had our ups and downs, but we're still playing together. Graham Nash then shouts out these words of encouragement. Go get us, Stephen. Steve Curry spent the next 45 years getting it. As I look around today, I see a church full of Neils and Grahams, lifelong friends, who are always encouraging Steve and cheering him on. He felt your love and appreciated it. The first lessons Steve taught me were most vivid in high school. Sadly, they had nothing to do with athletics. The Curry family moved to the neighborhood 55 years ago when we were 8. We soon experienced Steve's athletic prowess as a teammate on our Packer League teams, the Greens, Golds, and Navy Blues, and as our arch rival on the hated Cardinals in Little League. Through junior high and high school, Steve excelled at everything: sports, academics, music, and yes, good looks. During those times, we referred to the local newspaper not as the Cudahy Reminder, but the Curry Reminder. Steve was a tour de force in all aspects of life that mattered to teenage boys. I'll now share one secret with all of you. The one chink in Steve's armor: he could not ice skate. What set Steve truly apart was his humility. That is a character trait not normally associated with overachieving teenage boys. Perhaps Wayne and Marilyn had something to do with that. Steve's humility primarily manifested itself in kindness and concern he showed others. I watched him treat his classmates, regardless of their position in the social strata of high school, with kindness and common decency. In my mind, this set him apart. He checked his ego at the door when he entered the room. The playing field was another story. He demanded excellence of himself and his teammates. I can still hear him yell, "Slaves, you're dogging it, get back on D." Steve was well-rounded and well-liked, a great friend to all in his orbit. Lesson number 1, being humble and caring for others, is a terrific character trait. The second lesson was perseverance and hard work. In college and the pros, he worked hard to achieve the next level of success. This was not a linear climb. 2 steps forward, 1 back was his progression. This took an enormous amount of effort and mental fortitude to persevere. While these years were challenging, and in the end did not achieve the ultimate success he worked so hard for, this prepared him for the most difficult challenges in his later life. Steve taught us that challenges in our personal and professional lives arose. You overcame them with work effort and perseverance taught to each of us by our parents and our upbringing in Cudahy. We were all striving. Our work ethic was our finest attribute. The final lesson that Steve taught me was about redemption. The last 20 years of Steve's life were filled with challenges and failures. Yet each time Steve was knocked down, he got back up. At first, Steve was able to get back up under his own power. He could gather the internal fortitude he had built over a lifetime of training and pick himself up. As time passed and challenges mounted, he found that God gave him the strength to get up again and again. It was also the window. These final years gave me a complete perspective of Steve's life and struggles. It was also the window into understanding his true inner strength and the beauty of a man who had fought the good fight with dignity and honor. He taught me that whatever the obstacle to overcome, with perseverance and God's help, redemption is possible. There is a saying that a man is measured not by his accomplishments, but by the obstacles overcome and the distance on the difficult road of life travel. If one believes this to be true as I do, then Steve is in the Hall of Fame. I have a lifetime of admiration for Steve, attached to decades of watching him struggle mightily. There is no longer any remorse for me. Steve has opened my eyes to a better understanding to the limits of a man and the irrepressible substance of his soul. As we left for college, many of us also carried Jackson Browne's album, Late for the Sky. The song, For a Dancer, recounts the passing of a friend, a professional dancer. It begins with these lines: "I don't know what happens when people die. Can't seem to grasp it as hard as I try." And it finishes with, "In the end, there is one dance we do alone." For most of my life, those dreams permeated my understanding of death. As I aged and experienced the loss of parents and friends like Steve, I've come to the realization that these words do not define our departure from this world. With Steve's help, I have much more clearly understood that our mortal existence is but a short prelude to eternal salvation. In the end, Steve's humility before God and his friends let him leave this earth with the grace and dignity he lived his life. His final redemption let him pass easily into God's hands. We know for certain that Steve danced into heaven, not alone, but with the gentle help of his God, his parents, and all of us here on earth who love this man. Yes, today I mourn. I cried off these last 2 weeks, and I suspect I'm not alone. However, today, I also rejoice in having the good fortune to call Steve my friend. The lessons learned from Steve, humility, perseverance, redemption, will remain with me far longer than the pain of today. Brothers and sisters, I humbly request that you rejoice today as I do, knowing Steve touched each of us in a positive manner. and he now enjoys peace and everlasting life.